Hello, I'm Kelly and I draw things, and welcome to my home away from home. So this is a behind the scenes of the merch bundle that I designed for this month for Patreon. So this is where it all starts. Normally in my sketchbook, I start out with some kind of loose thumbnails. I had an idea in mind but wasn't 100% sure, so I did 4-ish pages of thumbnails for this. Even from the beginning, I knew I wanted this kind of window scene with some stars and to make it all cozy, so I did a lot of armchair stuff, and then eventually I got to this one and really settled on this bench idea in front of the window. I also designed the stickers on the same page. If you can see middle left and bottom right, those ended up becoming the sticker designs that pair with this art print for the merch bundle this month. But the actual thumbnail is quite small, and that's how I like to work. It helps me see the big picture before getting into the detail. Then I just take a photo of it with my phone. If it's detailed enough, I'll scan it, but this one was just on the fly, so I took a photo and I threw it onto my iPad, and I'm using the program Clip Studio Paint. I will recommend Clip Studio Paint until the day I die. I really, really like it. It has great tools for drawing and painting, but it's also really good for comic artists. And as someone who does quite a bit of comics, I also use it for all my illustration work. So what I'm doing now is going in and adding all of the details onto the thumbnail. This is called the tight rough stage. I am also going in and doing all of my perspective lines and making sure everything lines up in the 2-point linear perspective that I've built into the drawing. So for this, I ended up kind of combining a tight rough stage and a pencil stage, where it's just different levels of detail that are being worked out in the image. My tight rough, I would consider all of the perspective boxes that I put in, and then the pencil is what I would consider to be all the little details that I layer on top of each other. For this specific drawing, I wanted it to feel really cozy, so I layered lots and lots of details into it. Then after the pencil stage, I start inking. So I actually always try to flip the canvas horizontally to ink. This helps see things at a different way, and if something is wonky, especially like faces and eyes and things like that, it really makes it stand out, and that way you can either fix it as you're inking or fix it in the pencil drawing and then start inking after. I use the G Pen in Clip Studio Paint to ink. I've used it for a long time. Something I like about Clip Studio is it has a stabilizer tool that's really easy to toggle on and off, but also change how much stabilization it gives your hand. And you can get really smooth lines, or you can have a little more hand shown in them, and it has lots of options. So definitely recommend Clip Studio for inking over other programs. Then I just kind of work my way around the image and build details on top of details on top of details. And then eventually I'll go in and start adding in texture. I really like adding dots and lines in for a little bit of texture, and then spot blacks as well. Spot black is where an item or a shadow is completely blacked out. This is a very Marvel DC comic type of thing. I do it in very small bits. Sometimes I get a little too black placement heavy and I have to edit it out. But I've gotten better as of late. Then after I'm all done inking, I will turn off the pencil layer below the ink and just export it as a JPEG, or sometimes screenshot it, and then I'll take it into another file, make it smaller, put multiple on the same page, and do what I call color comps. Color comps are just a way for me to test color palettes before doing it on my big drawing. I do this for multiple reasons. One, it's really easy to keep track of what I've already tested, so I'm not running in circles. And then two, I think it's a lot easier to just blob on color really loosely and not try to figure out the color on the big image. It saves a lot of time in the end. So on this one, I started with a rather muted color palette, and then as I go to the right and down, I get more vibrant, and I ended up going with the bottom right one. It ended up brighter than I thought it would be, but I like how it turned out. Then I will use that color comp as reference, and I will start putting in the flats of my colors. The flats are just the solid color with no real gradients or anything under the line art, and then I'll do all my shading. So I get all my flats in, I heavily rely on limited color palettes. It's kind of my jam, so it's always fun to do my flats. And then I wanted really directional light coming from the window, so I blocked in a lot of these really dark shadows with this blue. And then I go do my highlights. I do my highlights in green first so I can see them, and then I just use the paint bucket and turn them all to white. And then I come in and change the color and the opacity and things like that to match what I need. So for those who want to be a little technical, my shadows are usually on a multiply layer at 50%, and my highlights are usually on a overlay layer at 70%. So I really played around with the lighting a little more than I usually do in this one because I have those lamps at the top, I had the window, and it wasn't quite reading as a window yet. So playing around with that, working on it, it's probably something I should have done in the color comps to save some time, but it is what it is. And I ended up finding a result that I liked where I put this kind of reflection on the window, and then at the very end I changed it to a gradient, and it all came together. I'm really happy with this as my first Patreon print. It feels very me. And that's how I made the illustration for the main part of the merch club this month. So if you really like that illustration, it's available as a mobile wallpaper on the Happy Cat tier and up. And then it's also available as a print to the Cool Cat Merch Club and the Party Cats. So thank you again for supporting me here on Patreon, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks.